Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss our experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 16.
Chapter 16!
Chapter 16, Cocoons. 7.5 years ago. Kaladin tells his friend Laurel, a young light-eyed girl and daughter of City Lord Wistio, that his father wants to send him to Carbronth. The two sit atop some boulders east of Hearthstone while Tien picks through some rocks below. Kaladin feels melancholic looking over working men carefully taking care of the polyps which would grow to provide grain. Ardents who visit Hearthstone insist upon the importance of farming as a calling as being no less important than that of a soldier. Laurel is upset Kaladin didn't tell her about Carbronth sooner, so Kaladin lies, saying he didn't think his father was serious. Laurel thought Kaladin wanted to be a soldier, inquiring about his desire to win a Shardblade and become a Light Eyes. Kaladin contemplates his developing feelings for Laurel. He understands logically what he's going through thanks to his father's explanation, but he is totally unprepared for just how much the changes would feel. Laurel points out the origin, far off in the distance, and notes Alethkar's noble warrior heritage. When Kaladin offers a non-committal response, Laurel gets upset. She doesn't like when Kaladin mopes and sighs. Kaladin wants to make a difference in the world, and he thinks being a soldier would accomplish that. Other times, he finds it hard to care about anything. He characterizes his dreariness as a black eel coiled inside of him. Tien, 10, is a bit of a runt, though Lirin has said he'd grow soon enough. Tien hands Cal a small stone. To Cal, the stone appears entirely ordinary, but Tien reveals a remarkable pattern when he pours water on it. Tien gives the rock to Cal to make him feel better, and miraculously, it works. The two go searching for lurgs. Tien finds one before Cal even had a chance to invite Laurel. Laurel notes Cal appears cheerful all of a sudden, wondering how Tien manages to change him in such a way. Laurel holds out her hand, expecting Cal to help her down from her boulder, confusing Cal, who notes that she's a better climber than he is. Cal thinks Laurel has been acting strange lately. The two join Tien, who has indeed found a lurg, a small six-legged creature which cocoons itself in a silk ball. The silk ball dissolves when water is poured on it, prompting the creature to search for insects. Kaladin has some time before he has to go to Carbronth. Laurel believes Lirin is forcing his will upon Cal. Laurel seems to want Cal to become a soldier, almost hoping he'd become a Light Eyes. She gets frustrated as she tries to explain something to him. Lirin forces Cal to spend nearly all of his time studying. He imagines being a soldier fighting alongside High Prince Sadeas and Dalinar the Blackthorn. Cal and Tien catch the lurg, and Cal explains that they can play with it later or use it to pull a prank on their father. Tien goes off to find another. Cal notes Laurel has been staring at the mansion a lot. He asks Laurel about war. Some older boys had been recruited into an army recently. They discuss the landscape, broken by a recent high storm. Cal thinks about the origin and parasites that endanger the polyp grain production. A group of dark-eyed boys gather nearby. Cal and Laurel part with Tien to go meet them. Laurel makes the boys uncomfortable because she is Light Eyes. Cal asks why the kids aren't worming the polyps, which upsets the boys. They see Cal as a privileged layabout. The boys have some time off while the elders handle an issue regarding some of the polyps. Cal stands by awkwardly until one of the boys asks him if he's ever heard of a Dark Eyes becoming a Light Eyes. Cal interprets the question as suggesting he isn't a real Dark Eyes. Cal's rank as second non makes the others uncomfortable. Winning a Shardblade and becoming a Light Eyes is one of the reasons common men go to war. Even a slave could do it. Lirin claims upward mobility is a core tenet of their society. The group discusses the actual probability of winning a Shardblade, joining the Heralds, and farming. One of the boys, Jost, tells a tale about how his father won a Shardblade, but a man near him had taken it before him. Kaladin thinks Jost's father is misremembering the fight and says as much. Jost takes the comment as an insult and instigates a fight. The two start fighting with staves. Jost easily has the upper hand, which shames Cal in front of Laurel. An embarrassed Cal manages to land a strong hit on Jost's hand. In so doing, Cal experiences a moment of wonder. The staff feels right to him. As he's about to hit Jost again, he notices blood on Jost's hand, causing him to freeze. Jost seizes the moment and puts an end to the fight, getting Cal on his back. Laurel leaves while Cal struggles to continue the fight, but Jost keeps him down. Once Cal calms down, he asks Jost to teach him how to fight. He offers to do Jost's work in the field. Jost refuses, saying it wouldn't be right. Cal should be what he is, while he, Jost, should be what he is. Cal sits alone, crying, embarrassed, watching Laurel in the distance when Tien approaches. Tien shows Cal another rock. The two head back to Hearthstone. Cal thinks about Jost's parting words, wondering what a man was to do when he doesn't know what he is. Liren sits alone in a dark operating room. "Father? Why are you sitting in the dark? Father?" "Bright Lord Wistio has been carried by the winds." "He's dead? He was healthy just last week." "He has always been frail, Cal. The Almighty calls all men back to the spiritual realm eventually." "You didn't do anything?" Cal immediately regrets the comment. "I did all I could. Perhaps a man with more training than I. Well, there is no use in regrets." Liren pulls out the goblet of diamond spheres belonging to the City Lord, lighting the room. "Those in Kholinar will appoint us a new City Lord. Almighty send them wisdom in their choice." Liren covers the spheres. "He left these for us." "What?" "You're to be sent to Carbronth when you turn 16. These spheres will pay your way. Bright Lord Wistio requested it be done. A last act to care for his people. You will go and become a true master surgeon, then return to Hearthstone." Cal feels as if his fate is sealed. He leaves the room. Cal does not know what he wants. He thinks on the wonder he felt when he held the staff, and how any decision has now been taken from him. He pulls out the rocks Tien had given him and pours water on them. The new one shows a smiling face. He feels constricted by what life is forcing him to be, but holding that staff sings to him, a moment of clarity. What a chapter.
Yeah, I love Kaladin so much.
Me too, and Brandon Sanderson really does an excellent job of writing depression.
Mm-hmm.
I get this.
Yeah, and also adolescence. Just he captures that whole mess as well.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the chapter, and in this there is no epigraph, I do have some artwork with the Alethi Codes of War.
Yep. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and this very much feels like something I might expect to see in a medieval book.
Yeah, reminded me of chivalry.
Yep.
All of that thing. And that's what we did have in the previous chapter. We had the codes of war and all of that. In the audiobook, they actually are read out to you.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, they're read out. They're read out to you at the end of the chapter.
Oh, yeah, that might be why I cautioned myself away from finishing it for fear of going into the next one. So that makes sense. And in these codes, we've got readiness. The officer will be prepared at all times for battle, never drunken on wine, never without his weapon. So...
Fail.
I mean, I don't drink all that much, so no big loss for me. Technically, Dalinar thought in times of war, suggesting that if they weren't at war, he would be able to drink. That's not quite what this says. At the same time, this specifically says never drunken on wine.
So you can be drunk on something else. Okay.
Yep. If you were looking to squeeze the rules a bit.
Yeah.
One beer won't hurt.
But yeah, technically, when Dalinar was drunk that night, they were supposed to be at peace. They had a treaty and everything. It's a celebration. So
true. Inspiration. The officer will wear his uniform when in public to look ready for war and to give strength to his troops. We got that as well out of Dalinar. Restraint. The officer will refrain from needless duels, arguments, or squabbles with other officers in camp to prevent injury to men who may be needed to command.
We see the restraint on Dalinar's part, but you can see
it's a struggle for Adolin, at least.
Yeah, and just the way that the high princes actually all work. They seem to be all at each other's throats, all looking to be against each other.
And beyond that, it's almost encouraged. Elhokar damn near encouraged the argument between Sadeas and Dalinar in that last chapter.
Yeah, exactly. So, and what it does also say is to prevent injury to men who may be needed to command, which is what the high princes are supposed to. That these are supposed to. They're not just little soldiers over there. This is if you're going to take off another commander, this is going to make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, also totally slipped my mind, and it's obviously going to be a long time before we get to it, but I did go and buy the second book in this series, Words of Radiance, I think it is.
Long.
So, very long. Anyway, thought I'd share that with everyone.
That's just like, oh, here's the tempting thing. Go and look at it. Okay.
I am very diligent in not sifting through it. I've got Hero of Ages and I've got Words of Radiance now. They're on the shelf. They look oh so pretty, but I will not touch them, I promise. Leadership. The officer will require no action of his soldiers that he would not be willing to perform himself. Got that as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then honor. The officer will not abandon allies on the field, nor will he seek to profit from the loss of his allies.
That's completely against what Elhokar is.
Yeah.
Like the thing he's fostering in the High Princes is absolutely people seeking to profit off the death of their allies or the loss of their allies. That's exactly what's happening with those with the gem hearts.
Yep. Very, very much so. As if this whole situation was set up specifically to be the antithesis to what they should be.
Yeah.
Now, into the chapter, where to even start? So, Laurel. First off, is Laurel the body of a young girl that Kaladin thought of in his first chapter? Or second?
Yeah, of course, that was my first suspicion.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Mm-hmm.
Laurel obviously has a crush on Kaladin, yeah?
Yes, very much so.
Why else would she be pushing so hard for him to become a soldier and to win a shard blade and therefore become Light Eyes? Even though second non isn't bad.
Yeah. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. She is, and also she's the daughter of a city lord, which is not, I'm given to understand it's not like
a city lord.
Yeah,
a city lord over a bunch of country bumpkins, as far as we can tell. So she can't be that high up on the Light Eyes tier list.
Exactly. So it really is not that unheard of. Well, I say that unheard of, not knowing anything about the world. But, it's not that far off. It's not that outlandish for her to think of it. You don't need him to be transformed into a Light Eyes.
Yeah. And that said, I really don't like how much she's pushing him to be a soldier.
I understand you have that because it's like it doesn't make sense, but she is not understanding what she's pushing him into. She is
that also, too. She's so young, she doesn't even cover her hand yet.
Yeah, exactly. So which is also interesting custom, but she doesn't understand what she's essentially asking of this person. She just thinks, he can go off to war. And not only that, okay, so he's got to survive war and all of that. No, but also he's got to just claim a shard blade. He'll win one. That just happens, it just happens. And that's just, the naivety of youth. It's just like, it'll happen because then we can get married. But she's not going to say that to him either because she's not going to tell him she likes him, God forbid.
Yeah, but God, I have such an image of her shaking her hand at him to help her down. And I'm like, oh, that is such a feminine crush thing. I feel like
she really wants it. She's like, no, there needs to be an excuse for him to touch my hand. Yep. And she works it. She just it's cute how oblivious Kaladin is. He really doesn't understand. Like she's acting strange. That's all he can figure out. He's like, okay, wait, she's focusing a little bit more on not getting dirty and walking a certain way and whatever. He's not understanding that it's got to do with him a lot.
Yeah. She spends a lot of time staring at the mansion, and I think Kaladin clearly has no idea that Wistio is in uniquely poor health or dying, and I suspect that Laurel does know.
Yeah, because he just says, "Oh, he just thought, oh, his father would needed to tend to something with the Lord there. That's it. He
Yeah.
didn't think he was tending to the actual Lord."
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, she could be looking for word back at the mansion there,
Yeah.
so she could be worried about that.
Tien is adorable,
Yes.
and he collects rocks and frog things.
Such a such nostalgia. Oh my gosh, of catching lizards and things with my cousins. Exactly.
And he has a unique ability to pull Kaladin out of his melancholy.
Did you consider this is some sort of magical thing, or it's just emotional? It's just.
I think it's an emotional thing. Like he's so innocent and sweet, kind of a thing.
I just had it as a consideration, as a theory, because I was like, why are you focused on the way these rocks have hidden striations, etc. And he can always pick them out, and he has picked out. He's got a whole collection. He can remember where he found each of them. That I did think of that. It made me think as well of being a soul caster. That might be something that would help you be a soul caster and everything. I know Tien's dead, but I'm just thinking of the possibility of what that could have meant for him.
Right. Mm-hmm. All the way back to the depression talk, by the way, there are 2 quotes in this chapter that I want to read quickly, because I want to talk about the symbolism therein and parallels to depression, if I may. He poured some water on his hand from his own canteen and flung it at the brown snarl brush. Wherever sprayed droplets fell, the brush grew instantly green as if he were throwing paint. The brush wasn't dead, it just dried out, waiting for the storms to come. Cal watched the patches of green slowly fade back to tan as the water was absorbed. And then the other quote, I don't remember why I wrote it in my notes, but it's basically just the sentences. Eventually, the Lurg realized that it had been tricked. It settled down on a rock to spin its cocoon again. So I'm wondering what these ideas mean as it's connected to this idea of depression. It's kind of like a death. You stop caring about things, and the way that Tien pours a little bit of water on the stone, and the way that Kaladin pours water on the dead plants and they come back to life. You need to feed yourself spiritually, emotionally, find what gives you purpose. Clearly in this, he seems to derive some purpose from the spear, which just feels right in his hand. We'll get to that when we talk about the boys. And I don't remember why the Lurg being tricked was so important for me to mention. Darn. What do you think of all of this topic, though, Kite?
I definitely see the symbolism. It's right there, kind of like, you kind of dry up waiting for happiness and good feelings, but then you just need to find it, and you can come alive for certain moments, but then eventually you dry up and become dead again, which is how depression works. It's like, you can sometimes feel certain things through it, but most of the time you're just dead inside. So the symbolism of the plants not being dead actually made me go, yeah, that's Kaladin. He's not dead, as much as he seems to think that. There is life in him, and we'll get to the spear thing. Also, just the mechanism of this biology is another thing that I was thinking. That the storms, everything in this environment has evolved around the presence of the storms. So not just, the way they build, but actual biology. So it seems like the idea of these crystallous things, or things being dry and then absorbing what comes from the storm, it happens in nature a lot. So it makes me think of what the gem hearts are, those beasts, what they're doing on the top of those chasms, and on top of the chasms, on top of those plateau things, they are waiting for storms to come, and the storm is supposed to, I suppose, rip them open or do something with them. And that, what are they supposed to become after that? I don't think they go up there to die. They go up there to change form. Because we've got cocoons, we got chrysalis, we got all of those words. So what are they supposed to turn into once they get to that stage of life? What is a storm supposed to do to it? So it's a lot of water and, of course, storm light. What happens to that? Does that become a void bringer? Does that become a thunderclass? I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely think because it's a strange thing with this Lurg. It enters into its cocoon when it's dry out, and then it dissolves when the water comes. One would think that they would cocoon themselves when the water comes, and then it would dissolve or go away from being dry when you could actually move around and exist outside of the storm. So why is that backwards for me?
I understand it because, it needs to protect itself. It's actually things live the most. I think what you're thinking of is, no, it needs to be protected against the storm.
Yeah.
But actually these things take life from the storms.
Yeah.
That's what's cool.
Yes, I definitely see that.
Which as well we can take into the symbolism. You're like, during the storm does give you life.
Yes. And then we get the boys, we get Kaladin feeling very much apart, in part because of his rank. He's in this weird middle ground where he's below Laurel, but higher than these other boys who treat him as such. He doesn't intend to outsmart them, I suppose. He seems too honest. It's so weird. In one moment in this chapter, he tells a small lie to Laurel, but in a later point, he's like overly honest with Jost when he's like, I don't think your dad's lying, but at the same time, I don't think it's very unlikely he got a shard blade or got close to one. Like, you could have just gone along to get along, but
yeah. But that's the thing. What I mean by I just love Kaladin, because just the fact that he was trying to be honest, but he wasn't trying to make the guy look stupid. He was also trying to impress Laurel as well. So he couldn't go. He just tried to take the path of the nicest path, and obviously they did not take it well. And he also just goes into this awkward nerd thing as well, where he's just like tries to find some other explanation. Oh, traumatic memory. It's a result of that and whatever. And that obviously that makes the other boys feel inadequate. Just the adolescence of it all.
Very well done.
So well done. Just the failings of all of them as just young people going through it. I loved that.
Yeah. Oh, add into the symbolism this idea of polyp viruses, like these things that go in that need to be carefully tended lest they infect the entire polyp. Again, that's like depression. It starts as a small seed and then grows, and
then you open it up and there's just a worm inside. Yeah. Once it's taken hold, it's eaten all of the good things inside you.
Yeah. And then we've got Kaladin freezing at the sight of blood.
Yeah, something he has to overcome.
Yep.
And he did notice, he's like, he had hurt someone. That's one of the he had caused pain, he had hurt someone. That made him actually lose the fight. Well, that's what I think, because he paused, because he was on some sort of juice there, which also made me think of the thrill, capital T. In the previous chapters, when we had the Shardblade users and we had Dalinar talking, when they were on the verge of fighting, they referred to this thrill, which makes me wonder if that is what Kaladin feels when he holds the weapon. Is that what the thrill feels like? Because it sounds like it.
I think so. It's going to be very annoying when he gets a shard blade and it's just this giant greatsword instead of a spear. He's like, I have no idea how to use this.
I think he'll be fine. But also, I do wonder how he's going to manage all of this. He is going to get some sort of training, but wonder how his father's going to take it.
Probably not well. Okay, so I low-key think... So, is Liren alive? Like, we're assuming we know Tien is dead. We think Laurel is dead. I'm wondering if something came into Hearthstone and just decimated everyone there.
It could be. I am more worried about the loss of their city lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever comes in afterwards could be a problem. They are friends with the city lord now. As much as they can be. The father is friends with Laurel's dad. Now that's gone.
Yeah.
What are the consequences of that?
Very nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we learn.
Mm. Oh shit! I had something else I was going to say about the boys and the fighting. Did you like Laurel's behavior during the fight? That was, and then she just. At first I was like, I didn't understand why she just gets up and walks away. I was like, geez, what a cow! And it's like, oh, she obviously saw someone coming from the house. That's what.
Yeah. At first I thought, oh, just like you. At first I thought, oh, well, clearly Kaladin wasn't impressive enough. But then, obviously, she saw people coming to get her, because Kaladin notes that she's meeting up with servants or something like that.
You spoke about the Lurg being tricked, right? And then we do have this idea of slaves or dark eyes becoming light eyes.
Oh, yeah.
How
I like that.
Is that?
Yeah, I can't imagine it happens to very many people.
And I mean, this is the first we've heard mention of it, that it turns your eyes light, I suppose.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it. Didn't Zeth's eyes change when he did his storm sorcery thing? Not the use of his shard blade, but it was, So
that's light eyes enough. But it seems like there would be a obscurity.
Yeah, I don't think we've had an experience of a dark eyes, except maybe Zath, who I don't think is either a light eyes or a dark eyes, wielding a shard blade. So I don't think we can say for certain.
But they do use this culturally as a lure for people to go. So that is how it relates for me when you say the Lurg is tricked. Because you throw this water at it and it comes out of its shell and it starts moving around and it gets tired. It's looking for this shard blade, okay, if you know what I'm saying. Like you would be looking as a dark eyes, you're looking for the shard blade to become the light eyes, to bring honor to your family and all of this. And then you're tricked and you die.
Yeah, if I were to want to join the army, it would not be for the 1 in a trillion shot of getting a shard blade. It would be, presumably, hopefully, to be taken note of as a superior fighter, trusted maybe with some degree of command, work my way up the ranks that way, and then go up a non or two, rather than some fool's wish.
Maybe this is something like a Santa Claus thing that the kids are under the impression of. That's why we don't. That's why we don't have that in the previous POVs.
But then again, they are recruiting kids into the army, essentially. So who's to say? And can we talk about Liren saying that upward mobility is a core tenet of their society? Is it?
Technically, it seems like. Okay, but that's Vorin, I suppose. Yeah, technically. Because if you kill everybody and you fight everybody off, upward mobility.
I mean, I'm not necessarily seeing anything that contradicts the idea. It's just, I guess I'm a little surprised with how strict and competitive and less than great this culture seems to be.
Yeah. It's like, sure. That's why I say technically. It's like, so yes, it is very strict and, if you work hard enough, you'll get where you're supposed to be. But that doesn't take away the systemic part of it that makes it nigh impossible to move upwards.
Yeah. But to bring it back to the shard blade soldier thing, it's like you don't need everyone to actually have upward mobility. You just need enough so that the rest think it's there.
Yep. Oh, wait, one more thing. That's what I needed to say. There is something that I think might come back. Okay?
Okay.
Because you did say that something might wipe out the city, or where he is, right? His town. They did. The elders are looking at a crop or whatever of polyps that are not growing correctly.
Oh, yes.
And they are figuring out whether it's going, they don't know whether they should replant it or let it grow and see what happens. So that might be something that comes back that causes the destruction. So there's two bad things, that and this new lord. Those are things that worry me in this flashback.
Gotcha. Yes. Agreed.
So I don't know if Laurel's going to be alive. She is very pouty and whatever, which does remind me a little bit of Syl. But then again, that's any young girl, really. That's about it.
Cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe to That Darn Kid if you get a chance. She's got a great channel.
Like the video.
If you like, it would be tremendously appreciated. It means a lot. And we'll see you next week. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.